Hello and welcome to The Jazz Journey with Doug Hall. I'm your host, Doug Hall. Our guest today is Aaron Irwin, and Aaron is a critically acclaimed saxophonist, multi-woodwind player, and composer. Aaron began studying piano when he was 5 years old and switched to the alto saxophone in the fourth grade. In 2024, Aaron released After, his ninth album, which was a collection of works inspired by poetry, and as quoted in the All About Jazz profile of him, described as, quote, interactions between sound and verse, weaving together melancholy, effervescence, and at times anxiety sparked by chaos. Wow, that's a mouthful. And today we are going to be talking about his latest recording, which was just released this month, entitled Spark. So welcome, Aaron, and we're very happy to have you with us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And for our audience, I always briefly want to review, of course, really a summary of artists' career and development so that they have some background and foundation. Aaron is a Brooklyn-based saxophonist, multi-woodwind instrumentalist, and composer, as mentioned before, whose work has been praised for its lyricism and emotional clarity, known as, and I'm going to quote from the New Yorker magazine, a, quote, lyrical alto saxophonist and a compelling original composer, as well as a canny bandleader, unquote. Irwin is a sought-after commodity in the New York jazz scene. In addition to leading his own projects, he has performed with ensembles including Darcy, James, Argue's Secret Society. I particularly love his work and have seen him perform a number of times, an amazing genius. And Jamie Baum's Septet Plus. His current trio features guitarist Mike Baggetta and drummer Bill Campbell, both having all three played together for an extended period of years. There's no doubt a lot of tight chemistry occurring in that relationship. Aaron also has a passion for teaching for over 20 years and is currently on faculty at the Packer Collegiate School in Brooklyn. He has also recently served on the faculty of Towson University for 5 years. Wow, that's an amazing resume, Aaron, that encompasses, I think, the value and reward of teaching, plus being obviously a band leader and a composer and a jazz musician. Let us now transition to the listening portion of the program. And Aaron, if you wouldn't mind, I'll let you kind of set up the background for these two compositions, of which we'll listen to portions of. And the first one is the title cut from his new release, Spark.
Well, let's see. What I can say about this particular piece is I've been kind of inspired recently by early blues music.
Okay.
Like Mississippi John Hurt, Leadbelly, Sunhouse, those kind of artists.
Mm-hmm.
And in particular, their fingerstyle guitar playing.
Okay.
And, I don't play guitar. Well,
Right.
I play very badly guitar. But I'm so in composing this piece, I was trying to use some of those fingerstyle patterns and having Mike kind of use that as kind of the basis of this composition.
Okay, interesting. Right, because there's such the black musicians out of the South from that period of time giving birth really to the blues on their guitars and playing a variety of slide and the sound that we accept today that comes from those origins. It's kind of huge, it's a deep well with
and they could get so much out of just the guitar alone.
right.
And my instrumentation doesn't have a bass player, so
right.
in navigating that kind of constraint in the music or in just the orchestration of it, finding a way to help fill it out, help make it sound like there's more people than
Right.
actually there are.
Right. I remember, I mean, not to go down too long a road before we listen to the music, but I remember when Eric Clapton was interviewed as he covered Robert Johnson in a recording, He said, what you have to understand is both Robert Johnson is playing both lead, in a sense, lead guitar, and he's also playing bass on the guitar, really kind of at the same moment to generate that sound. So
Yeah.
kind of incredible. Well, great. Thanks for the setup. Let's have a listen to a portion of Spark. Yeah, wow. It's a very it's an interesting piece to me in two ways. Just because it lifts, it has this lifting sort of building crescendo to it that overlays after you hear the guitar, and then your saxophone. If I'm hearing that correctly, not your clarinet, your saxophone just kind of lifts and layers over the top of that, and it picks up a lot of momentum.
Oh, well, thanks. Yeah, I was also using some effects pedals with the saxophone too, so that kind of gave an added kind of weird texture to it.
Right. Lovely piece. I mean, I always try to hesitate because of all my listening ears and all the difference of jazz. It reminded me, funny enough, a little bit of Wayne Shorter in Weather Report, how Zalman Newell and Shorter worked together at times, that sort of lifting crescendo that they had in their music. But anyway, lovely piece. So why don't we move to the second featured piece, which is Fahey. And I'll have Aaron just give us a little bit of background for that composition as well.
Well, similar to the first one, this one is inspired by the, I guess you'd maybe call him more of a folk guitar player, John Fahey.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, his also he just has kind of a way of playing that I wanted to capture that's I think draws the listener in. Is kind of strange, but also inviting. Also, it's tonal, and that's kind of what inspired this piece.
Okay, great. Let's have a listen. Yeah, that really features your guitarist and his outstanding acoustic fingering. I like the very almost sort of the very rhythmic action on the guitar on the beginning that really is kind of almost a syncopated sound, and then you go into this wonderful transition from the guitar strings into the lyrical clarinet and saxophone kind of over the top of it. It's a reflective piece in a sense. It's a listening piece.
Glad.
Yeah,
Yeah. Thanks.
yeah. So, well, those two were the cuts from Aaron's current release, Spark, and welcome our audience to search that out. We'll have social media on the production towards the end of our interview. Just a couple of questions, Aaron. I was curious. I guess you could speak to both your release After and your current release Spark. Can you talk about the characteristics of a trio versus, say, a quartet or a quintet? I guess more specifically, what are the freedoms as a band leader you see, and maybe what might be the restraints or challenges with such a tight collaboration of just three musicians?
Well, just having, well, first of all, the instrumentation that I've been using in the past two projects have been guitar, drums, and myself playing saxophone and clarinet. So what that means is there's no bass player, which oftentimes is kind of the anchor of a lot of music. So
Yeah.
as I maybe alluded to, it provides a constraint in a way. So how there's like a problem that I'm solving while I'm composing is
Right.
how do I make this this sound cohesive without that kind of anchor happening.
Right.
And of course there's a very famous the Paul Motion trio, which was
Okay.
very famously had no bass. But I'm not trying to approach my pieces like them, but they're a huge influence.
Okay.
But another kind of a idea that I've had in mind when composing is in general is jazz doesn't have to, or maybe music doesn't have to be limited to having bass, drums, the typical
Right.
orchestration.
Yeah.
Another person that famously, or in my mind, famously wrote in kind of odd instrumentations or unconventional orchestrations is Jimmy Giuffre. And
Okay.
his trio, the early trio with Bob Brookmeyer and Jim Hall. I mean, that was when I discovered that was a revelation. 2 horn players and a guitar player. That was
Right.
wow, and the amount of music that they can make that way. So my idea was it shouldn't necessarily matter what instrumentations, and it's both confining and liberating to have that challenge of writing music with sort of in an unconventional way.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I think that really breaks kind of down the challenges. And we just had an opportunity to listen to that combination of 3 instruments without a bass. Going back to your instruments, as you play both saxophone and clarinet, could you talk just a little bit about the tonal qualities and differences you feel between the 2 instruments as you choose one over the other for different parts of your songs or for areas within the composition and songs that you write? If you wanted to be specific with a composition in Spark or otherwise, I know there's a quote here that I dug out that in the press release, quote, a widening of the palette. Subtle widening of the palette. So I'll just let you speak to that a little bit if you'd like.
So the way I approached writing for for this album, I'm just playing alto saxophone and bass clarinet.
Okay.
And I had the idea of the bass clarinet functioning more as that bass, maybe the lower
Okay.
foundation. Because
Okay.
what I found is that the alto and the guitar are similar, I guess, sonic ranges.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of this alto and above sonic sound, and to have the bass clarinet play in the lower part of the sonic spectrum really helps fill out some of the I guess the sound that you hear. So the pieces that I like, Jew Free,
Mm-hmm.
and song in the front yard is written with
Okay.
those kind of things in mind. Um,
Good.
Not to say that the bass clarinet can play, has a very wide range, but I was kind of leaning into the lower sound spectrum of that for
Okay.
that instrument.
Okay. Okay. Interesting to think of it in those terms, as you've explained. Going back to your teaching, of which you've been involved in for a long time, 20 years plus. I know I've asked this question once or twice before, but I know so often instructors and teachers and mentors are focused so much on instructing the student. How do you characterize your learning back from the students you teach? What sort of insights? If that's kind of a wide question, but I'll just let you respond as you'd like to.
I mean, I love this idea of in a perfect world we're both learning as
Right.
we're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. Recently, I heard this quote. Maybe it's from JFK. He's in NASA, and he stumbles upon a janitor or a person sweeping the floor,
Mm-hmm.
and he asks that person, "What do you do here?" Expecting him to say, "Oh, I'm the janitor," and the person responds, "Oh, I help people. I help put people on the moon."
Oh, wow. What a great
Love thinking about
response.
that as a
Yeah.
teacher. Where maybe it's learning a simple piece of repertoire, or even
Right.
if it's a beginner student or whatever you're doing, you're help creating an artist. You're help creating a full person
Yeah.
that's gonna go in the world, and it's not a small responsibility.
Yeah. No doubt. Just as we close here, I wanted to mention to the audience that Aaron also has a YouTube channel called Thanks for Dropping In. And he interviews musicians and artists discussing process and journey. So Aaron, just could you talk just a little bit about the rewards of this open discussion format for you?
Well, the podcast started kind of shortly after COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and I found myself with a space to have these interviews, and I just wanted to connect with some people that I already knew, and I'm sure listeners can relate. Sometimes you just have friends that just say things that
Yeah.
are so inspiring, and you want to share them with the world, and you learn a lot by. Also, I have friends and colleagues that I learned a lot just by asking. Sometimes you take for granted what they have to say, and you don't
Mm-hmm.
ask the basic questions that unlocks something about them that
Mm-hmm.
you didn't know before,
Mm-hmm.
and you grow and you learn, and you're both learning. And I thought it would be a great way to share that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's very true with the open exchange, using the technology for, positive communication, which I find through my podcasts, always making discoveries and surprises, and just trying to keep the conversation open, and it's very rewarding in all those ways. Well, within 30-minute format here, we quickly run out of time, but I think we've covered some ground and had a chance to talk about your new release, Spark. And just as we close, Aaron, I always like to ask an artist if you'd like to mention any upcoming compositional projects or particular performances.
Yeah, well, let's see. I have another band that I lead called The Big Show.
Okay.
And we are recording in May. So we've been playing as a band for 2 years now.
Oh, okay.
And we're going to finally make a recording in May. And then the trio has some dates in June. We're going to do a little tour. So I'm still finalizing that, but we have we have a few lined up, and I'll post about it on my social platform and in my website.
Great. All right. Well, encourage the audience to follow that. And again, there will be a posting of Aaron's social media on this podcast. And again, Aaron, thanks again for being here with me today and sharing what we've talked about and our conversation, and enjoying some of the portion of your current release, Spark.
Thanks a lot.
Best of luck and good positive karma with all that comes in front of you in your career and pursuits. So thank you again for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be here.
All right. Well, thank you again for listening to another podcast of the Jazz Journey with Doug Hall. I'm your host, Doug Hall, and we just had an opportunity to chat with Aaron Irwin, who is a critically acclaimed saxophonist, woodwind player, and composer, and has just released a recording entitled Spark. So please continue to tune in and listen and support Lex Media, and love to have you follow my podcast, The Jazz Journey. And thank you again for all the listeners today and your interest in jazz, and you help promote it by just participating. Thank you again.